Live, Laugh, Larceny discusses true petty crimes that may be disturbing to some.
Or could be easy listening to all you psychopaths out there.
All stories are based on actual events, but details may vary.
Listener discretion is not advised.
Live,
Laugh,
Larceny. Welcome to Live, Laugh, Larceny. Joining an MLM just to get that mistake out of the way. This is Trevin.
And I'm Amanda. Shout out to all of our MLMs.
Sign up if you're not in one yet.
So, Trevin.
Uh-huh.
What is your dreadful dilemma this week?
So I've got a dreadful dilemma that I feel like some people would be like, oh, listen to this guy complaining about how great his life is. But you and I are talking at the start of my vacation.
Yes!
Before I embark on CrimeCon in Florida and then our Daytona adventure afterwards. But I'm getting nervous.
What part of it? I know you're not a big fan of traveling, but which part is it? Is it the traveling to get there? Is it when you're there? Is it to get home? What is it?
It feels like when I get on a plane, I go to a place and then I can't get back home any other way but with a plane.
Mm-hmm.
And for some reason, I feel like I teleport with the help of the plane. So I feel like I'm somewhat on an island for going. I always have a fear of dying on vacation. I think I've talked about that before. Mm-hmm. I hadn't had that fear at all until right before when I was going to bed last night. I was like, uh-oh, don't want to, die on vacation.
Do you have that before every trip?
As I've gotten older, the span of what counts, it's changed. When we went to Herman down in South Missouri, like a 3-hour drive, at one point I probably would have been scared of it. Now I'm like, that doesn't count. My comfort zone for travel has gotten bigger.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good, at least, right?
Yeah, I think I've grown a little bit.
At least it's not going in the opposite direction where if you have to go to the grocery store, you're like, well, I'm going to die.
Yeah.
If I go get that milk,
And then the True Crime Podcast Festival next year is in Denver. Mm-hmm. And I'm pretty sure, yes, I think we'll be going to that. And so that's an easy drive too. When we went to Dallas, I did really well with that. But I drove to Dallas, so I still kind of had that safety home of the car.
Okay, so it's really about you need to have a vehicle, a motorized vehicle on the ready at any given point, or you feel a little out of it.
Yeah, I feel a little out of it. I think it
Okay.
also feels like it helps me mentally still connect back to home because like I got into this car at home. I'm bringing this car to Dallas or whatever.
But you could say the same thing about your underwear. You got into those socks, you got into those undies, you got into that shirt at home, right?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe just turn your car into your clothing.
Turn my car into my clothing.
I don't know. It could be a mental thing. All I want to say is that just as your friend, you've gotten a lot better already. So you're on the right path.
Yeah, as we've talked about with my mental journey and me being more aware of my actual physical self, I do a lot of living in the future and trying to check things off my mental list and whatnot. Now that I'm learning how to kind of turn my brain off and focus more on the present better, I really look forward to this vacation because I think I will actually be able to enjoy it to a different level that I've probably never enjoyed travel before. As much as I loved Galveston and the ocean, that's my favorite vacation ever. I think this can just be the same thing, but like times 100.
Yes, Trevin. It can only go up from here. Yeah. Being in the present is so damn hard sometimes, but it's so important. Mine's the same thing. Sometimes I dwell on the past, but mine's mainly worrying about the future. So I get it.
For sure.
Well, I'm proud of you. This will come out after CrimeCon.
Correct. This is me before I leave, because I know we were off last week, so I'm not here to update you on CrimeCon, but next week I sure will.
Yes, I can't wait. I just think you're going to have the best time. So I also have a dreadful dilemma.
Mm-hmm.
I also recently traveled, okay, which is like super weird. I feel like Trevin and I are not the kind of people that are just traveling all over the dang place, but for some reason, back-to-back weekends, here we are.
Yeah, do you ever like creep on a favorite podcaster and you just see what they just recently went and did and you're like, oh, these bougie shits out always having fun. If anybody went to go creep us, they'd be like, whoa, yeah, bougie assholes just like all the other ones. It's like, I promise you, I needed to replace my slippers 4 months ago. I can't afford to take vacations, and I wear these things out.
I am the same way. I recently went on a girls' trip that my sister-in-law gifted me. So, yeah, I did have the best, bougiest time, but my God, that ain't us. We're just chillers, okay?
Yeah, we're just having out-of-life experiences.
Don't get it twisted. We're not as cool as we look. So, I recently traveled to LA, and I know I've already done my dreadful dilemma about the Arnold Palmers in Cleveland, okay?
Oh.
And we've got a lot of mixed messages sent back to me. Some people think it is a Southern thing or an Ohio thing.
Yeah.
Some definitely do not.
We've had multiple Ohio listeners say, yes, it's a thing. Other people say, no, I've never heard of it. I've heard that it's a Southern thing that people from Kentucky who moved upward brought with them. And so I think there's a weird border war situation going on there, but it was interesting nonetheless.
I like that theory a lot. I love that Kentucky is just bringing it in. I just love it. Okay, so I did stumble upon something really, really weird that we do not have here. And I want to know if you've ever heard of this. So, Trevin, I'm going to show you this video. This isn't good for podcasting, but... So you guys, I just showed Trevin a video of me being like, what is that? What is that? And I was videoing this little tiny red robot on wheels. And on the side of it, it said Coco.
Oh, it said Coco. Mm-hmm. I thought it said Costco.
I thought it said Costco when I first saw it too. And it
Similar
also,
font.
it has lights on it. It had a little red flag on it. So we were waiting at a stoplight, waiting for it to say walk. The robot waited with us, and when it said to walk, it walked with us. And then it turned the little corner, and that's when I got the video, and I was mind blown. Have you ever heard of this thing?
So Coco's a brand?
Coco's a brand.
I am not familiar with this at all.
Thank God, because I was very impressed, okay? I know I'm sure people who have them, I guess they're in California a lot. I assume the reason they have them is because of traffic or something, but let me really quickly explain what
Do
what
they
this
deliver
is.
children? Like babies from preschool or something? Okay, that probably wouldn't work.
Coco is a startup that uses delivery robots with remote human operators to shuttle food and other goods to customers, and pitches itself as being COVID safe, as well as getting rid of pesky tips for workers. So basically, Amanda and I, which is my sister-in-law's name, it was just her and I on this trip. We saw them. We were freaking out. We were Googling it. We were researching them. And we found out that they can deliver food from stores or restaurants. Sometimes do them too. But you do have to live in like a certain mile radius. I can't remember
So
what
it's
it
not like
is.
a long distance delivery.
No.
Okay.
This is a few blocks, I feel like. I can't remember exactly what it is. But anyways, we had our minds blown, okay? The dreadful part about this whole thing is that I'm over here freaking out. I sent the video to Jordan because my husband is really into weird tech things and bizarre stuff. And instead of him freaking out along with me, he was just like, oh, yeah, I've seen a lot of those on Reddit. People knock him over and beat the shit out of him and stuff. I'm like, wait, these innocent little Coco bots? I don't have the heart to look it up, but apparently there's these videos where people just knock them over and kick them.
The type of person that I am, I feel the same way. I feel like that's animal cruelty or something.
Yes.
It's like, he's just trying to do his job, man.
Just trying to get the food to the people. But it was really dreadful because I was so excited to tell him, and he already knew.
That's so funny because before you even said that, you said he's into weird tech stuff. I almost interrupted and said, he reads Reddit. That's literally what I was about to say. But then I told myself, no, I don't want to make that joke because then like somebody will complain that I am hating on Reddit people or something. But then you went and just said it anyway. So there you go.
So apparently all the people on Reddit already know about it, and some think it's funny to beat these little guys up, and I just won't stand for it.
Yeah, that feels wrong. But I kind of was thinking, I wonder how many times these things get stopped or broken just to have the food stolen.
Yeah.
But not to be a dick to a robot.
No, people are just dicks. They're not even getting the food.
Yikes.
Unacceptable.
Red flag, ladies.
So this week we are going to be doing a round of Would You Rather?
Would you rather?
It feels so long.
Oh my God. How long ago has it been?
It's probably been a while. I try to make that the one we do the least.
I know a lot of times we always say that because would you rather is like a very personal thing, you know, it's like our opinion kind of thing. And a lot of times we like to give more facts and stuff too.
We like to lean on the edutainment side of our middle segment.
Yes, but I will say, Trevin, when we get to mine is actually really informative. So it's not just like a random thing. So you will learn something today, okay? I promise.
I didn't even plan on talking about this, but I actually found this Would You Rather on Reddit.
No, you didn't.
I really don't use Reddit very often, but this one popped up and I was like, oh, I really like this. So I'm really curious what you have to say about this one. I think I know what mine would be, but who knows? So, would you rather move into a different house every year or have a different job every year?
Oof. That's hard. I don't really like either of those options. I really don't like big changes. Ugh. I think for me, I would want to keep the home the same and have a new job. And that's just because I need a consistent, safe place to go to. I know home is where the heart is or whatever, but I do need a place that's comforting at times. Mm-hmm. And at least if I had a new job, I wouldn't have to deal with all the bullshit. I'd deal with them for a little bit and get a new one. Yeah. You know, and also if you have a different job, you can use different skills and different creativity and different things that you like in each job. But that still is kind of a bitch. I don't know. What would you do?
I would do the exact same thing.
You would? Okay.
Yeah. Well, one, I hate moving.
Oh, God.
I hate moving the most.
Yeah.
But it takes me so long to get settled in a place. I feel like I still just moved into this house and I think I've been here over 2 years.
Yeah.
And also kind of like what you just said there. It's almost like you just get to keep sampling things.
Right.
Like I know people that just love getting new jobs. And I also love people that it seems like they move into at least a lateral move to a different apartment every year. And like, stay still.
I know.
But I think that it would be kind of like dating. When I first started dating, I got really nervous when I go meet girls. But then I eventually was just really enjoying kind of sampling an evening with another person, getting to know them.
Yeah.
Kind of just vibe checking. And as much as I was very nervous about meeting people and being afraid that I wasn't enough, I was always very excited to explore another personality or, you know, discover a new person, I guess. And honestly, sometimes I do kind of miss that part of things. But I don't want to go meet a friend. That sounds weird.
I know. Right.
I don't even have time for the ones I have.
I know. God, don't I know it? But I hear you. I would much rather move a box of my stuff from an office to another place than move my whole house each and every year and like relocate and try and make it a home. Shit. I feel like the house I've lived in all this time still doesn't have all this stuff done.
I mean, if you were a project person, you would finish the project and move to another one.
Yeah.
I guess if that's what you wanted to do.
Not that ain't me.
No, so we both said the same thing.
Well, I have a would you rather, like I promised, guys. It's actually true crime based, and I have some facts that go with it.
Okay.
I asked my dad which one he would rather do earlier, and he was like, ooh, this is a tough one.
Uh-oh.
So be prepared, Trevin. Okay. Would you rather be a juror on the O.J. Simpson murder trial or be a juror on the Manson family murder trial? Now, if you'd like, I have facts about each, about the jurors and how long they had to be sequestered and the conditions and everything.
Okay, I love where your head's at. Good idea. And yeah, let's do that because I don't actually know that much about Manson's trial.
Okay. Both of them actually took place in LA, which I thought was kind of wild. Mm-hmm. OJ's trial was in 1995, where Manson's trial was in 1970. It actually went into 1971 as well. Now, Manson's trial came first, so the jury was sequestered 225 days. So at the time, that was the longest any jury had ever been sequestered.
I didn't know that. That's cool.
The trial transcript alone ran to 209 volumes, which was 31,716 pages long, and approximately 8 million words were said. That's just to explain like how much the jury had to listen to. It was a long, long trial.
You know, I bet there are true crime nerds that have read the entire thing. Could you imagine?
Oh, guaranteed.
There's got to be people that nerd out reading that.
Yeah. And also, we need those kind of people too, because sometimes it's the people who want to read every little thing and the data and figuring it all out, that they're the ones that actually get the shit solved sometimes. But that sounds like a lot to me.
It just sounds like a big read.
Yeah. I also wanted to share a weird little story of one of the jurors on the Manson jury. So William McBride was a 25-year-old man with shaggy hair. And poor William actually lost his fiancée. They ended up breaking up. She didn't die, okay. But they ended up breaking up during the separation just because he was sequestered for so long.
Oh, no.
It sucked because spouses, if you were legally married, they let their spouses stay overnight on weekends for some reason. But if you weren't legally married, this was his fiancée, he couldn't see her or stay with her at all.
Whoa.
And apparently, unmarried jurors were not officially allowed any company and would have authorities peering over their shoulders anytime they spoke to anyone. So that's a little bit about those jurors. Let's go back to OJ real quick.
Okay.
There's a lot more information about this, I think, just because both of them were gigantic trials, but this one had way more media presence because it was later.
And he was already famous.
Yes. Like I had already said, they were sequestered 265 days, which is still the longest jury sequestration in U.S. history. Still, to this day.
What was the difference? They were both in the 200s,
Yes, right? So Manson's was 225, OJ's was 265.
Okay, I didn't even register that those were different.
So they sound very similar. So 40 days longer is all. I mean,
just a month and a half-ish.
It adds up. Jurors were sequestered for the 8.5 months. They stayed at a hotel 5 blocks from the courthouse. According to an ABC report, jurors could never lock their rooms, never go for a walk alone, never talk on the phone without a deputy listening. They ate cafeteria style with no alcohol allowed, and they watched only from 2 television sets and were only allowed court-approved movies.
Court-approved movies?
What is on that list? I don't know. Obviously, they couldn't watch a movie with O.J. Simpson in it. Obviously.
Don't watch Naked Gun because you might fall in love with him.
Yeah. What was on that list?
I guess they would want to maybe give him stuff that doesn't sway their emotions in a certain direction.
I don't know. It was a really divisive time.
That offends me more than anything.
Dude, isn't that wild? So, which jury would you rather sit on, Trevin?
Oh, I think that the media circus of the OJ trial would have been quite a time to witness, only as a third person. I wouldn't want to be on the jury. I would say Manson.
Yeah. I went back and forth, okay? Because I feel like the Manson murders would honestly scar me for life. Not saying that the murders on the O.J. Simpson trial weren't.
Those were violent as hell.
Yeah, those were also very traumatic. So I went back and forth and trying to figure this out. And then I was like, well, this one's in the 70s, this one's in the 90s. I was just trying to compare it all. They're kind of comparable dates. But for me, yeah, I think everyone was against the Manson family. Most people, they had a little fan club, I'm sure, like like all people do. But I feel like the majority of people were like, yeah, obviously they're bad and this is bad, right? But with OJ, he had such a strong support system that to be on that jury, that'd be too much pressure for me, you know?
Yeah.
And the time, it was just such a divisive, I mean, it still kind of is now, but.
And also something of that size and being one of the first of its kind, really, I feel like if you were to be sequestered today, they would have better plans in place to make it more relaxing for you and stuff.
Yeah.
So they were probably in pretty unprecedented waters and just like, I don't know, watch court-regulated movies. I don't know. Is that going to help us? Is that going to do the thing? Okay, we'll do that. Like, that's what it feels like to me. I feel like now, maybe I'm giving the U.S. too much credit. Maybe they wouldn't have to approve your movies.
Yeah.
Maybe they give you a Netflix password.
A lot of crimes now, they don't sequester people. Even like big media circus type things like the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard thing, they didn't sequester them. They just said, hey, don't talk to anyone and don't watch anything because it costs so much money.
Oh, I bet.
And jurors freak the fuck out when they're trapped for that long.
I bet you'd feel pretty claustrophobic.
Oh, God. There'd be no way in hell. I'd have to spill the tea to someone. I shouldn't be a juror.
No, just show this episode if you get duty or something.
I'll be like, listen here.
This is time stamped. This was before I knew about this.
Oh, my God. Well, Trevin, I think it's about time for some ads.
You know what? Yeah. And we are back. And I just want to say, this is our first episode of October.
Yes, it is.
And you and I are both enjoying pumpkin drinks.
Oh, my God.
Because pumpkin everything, right, everybody?
If you know, you know.
I just wanted to bring that up. My goal for this spooky season is I'm going to try to do 3 spooky-ish stories, and not just one Halloween story, but I'm trying to see if I can spread it to the whole month. But because this year I am getting married, and I'm getting married in the thick of Halloween time, I felt like it would be better to not do a wedding-related thing around my wedding, because that would be, stepping on the toes of All Hallows Eve.
Okay.
So I got to get my wedding story out of the way.
Oh my God, I love a good wedding this time of year.
Yes. I just want to get that out of the way, so then the rest of this month I can get spooky with you. So let's do it.
I'm ready.
I do. Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today in the sight of anyone who is here to join together this person and this other person of equal value in happy matrimony. Marriage is an expensive and prevailing sentiment which should be entered into with the explicit approval of your federal government. Blah, blah, blah. You see what I'm doing here. I think it's time I tackle the subject of weddings. Why not, right? I've had multiple listeners comment on our posts and ask how wedding planning has been going. And honestly, I've remained relatively quiet on the subject. I expected the process to have presented way more dreadful dilemmas to use for the show. But really, Emily and I have been handling the planning pretty well. Sure, there has been some stress, but I think the stress that's been there is just the natural kind of stress Emily and I both put on ourselves. So let's talk about the tradition of marriage. I don't love it. Like most things that we as a society still practice, marriage was a strange, ancient agreement that had problematic at best intentions. Women were essentially treated as property, and the union between husband and wife was more about the union of families for economic purposes than a romantic notion of love. Marriage started as a religious-based union that evolved into a governmental institution and is now a breeding ground for capitalistic gains. Anyone looking to get married will be force-fed ads, guilting them that if they don't splurge on this particular wedding experience, they must not really want their big day to be that special.
If you don't buy this, you will get divorced.
And the saddest part about it is, the traditional aspect of it all turns anyone of an older generation into a salesperson for these companies. For example, let's say you want to model your wedding off the small town in Footloose, having no dancing allowed. But your dad really wants to have their weird father-daughter dance, where he ceremoniously dances with his adult daughter one last time, symbolically making her a woman in his eyes.
I just wanted to be important too.
So the shame you feel for your dad missing out causes you to rent a larger venue with a dance floor, hire a shitty DJ that you hate, and also go through with the dance you didn't even want to do.
This is my moment.
What was that, Dad?
Boom. Money gone. Your wedding is now super loud, and you're keeping up with a tradition you don't believe in, all for someone else. And these are the compromises you make over and over again for your special day. It's a popular belief that funerals are more for the living than the dead, and I feel the same way about weddings. It's called your big day, but a lot of the amenities are for the guests. Like, my love doesn't need to be some strange rehearsed play that requires expensive costumes, stage-like makeup, and an odd ceremony where a religious figure I don't know pronounces us man and wife.
The good Lord grants you marriage.
But somehow doing this in front of people makes it easier for them to accept the thought of us having sex. Now, before any of you worry that this whole intro was a cry for help, or a sign that I'm not happy with getting married, think again, TMZ. I'm just not that showy of a person, and the pressures of everyone else prioritizing the tradition can be pretty trying. For me, love is one of the most pure and beautiful things in the world. When you can fully trust a person enough for you to be your true ugly self in front of them, and know that they will still support you through all your risks, that's the thing I'll always remember. Not sweating my ass off in formal wear while posing for a million rehearsed photos.
God help me.
The love that I want to frame on my wall, or keep in a locket, are the moments like my brain break, when Emily really helped me reconnect with a part of myself I had been trying to avoid for years. This is the sustainable, nitty-gritty, unglamorous, beautiful, pure kind of love that can't be replicated in some weird, expensive ceremony. Today's story will touch on marriage, the big day, and the often overlooked belief of trust. So take a close look at your partner and make sure you know who you're marrying, because no one wants to be stuck with a petty criminal until death do you part. Prudence was a young woman just trying to make it in American society during the year 2020. She had creative dreams to chase, relationship goals to cultivate, and she was always trying to do better about drinking more water. But there just never felt like enough time in the day to achieve all those things. Every year that would pass, Prudence would look at all the aspects of her life and self-assess. And each time that she did, she gave herself a personal grade of needs improvement. Because of this, it made it harder to commit to things. Prudence would turn down invites from friends just in case she felt inspiration to write her memoirs, and she would skip brunch with family for health goals. With all of these social pressures of finding fulfillment, she was always a little too wrapped up in her own stuff to experience what was right in front of her. One aspect of her life that especially felt stagnant was her relationship. For the past few years, Prudence had been dating Josh. Josh was a good enough guy. He had all the typical traits you'd expect of a straight white man. He wasn't afraid to raise his voice when he felt threatened.
You made me feel small.
He used his car to make up for his personal insecurities. And he grossly over-exaggerated his ability to fix things.
Oh, shit.
But like I said, he's a good enough guy. The two's relationship was fine. They stood the test of time and went through all of the motions, matching Christmas pajama pictures with the dog, a couple's Halloween costume that was an obscure pun,
Weird, quirky.
and weekly restaurant photo posts with a caption that read, "Cute date, kinda nervous." This was millennial love in 2020. So following the textbook love story of so many new age relationships, it was time to take things to the next level. Josh was a simple guy. To him, he had already marked off all of his milestones on his relationship bingo card. It was time to offer Prudence his last name and start working on a different set of duties to fulfill. On a bright and exciting New Year's Eve, Josh got down on one knee at their favorite dirty bar and proposed as everyone counted down. The moment really helped the outcome. Prudence was feeling overwhelmed by the crowd, and the shock of it all led to a big, tearful yes.
Yes!
Followed by claps from the onlookers nearby. Taking the next step brought on a much higher difficulty in the relationship, as the newly engaged lovers began the overwhelming task of planning a wedding. The two went through their lists of do's and do-nots for the special day. Josh wanted a grand entrance, with his groomsmen following like an entourage of bodyguards, while Prudence had just one request: no smashing the cake in each other's face. This was a compromise that was difficult for Josh to accept.
Ugh, what? But that's a fun thing that us men get to do. Everyone will laugh and think of me as a fun boy,
Josh shouted from his side of the dinner table.
Come on, Josh. I'm already letting you play Who Let the Dogs Out when the unmarried women come out for the bouquet toss, even though I find it highly offensive. Can't I just have this one thing?
Prudence responded, feeling completely validated with this simple request. Josh stuck out his lower lip and looked away.
Yeah, we'll see,
he said, with a tone that left Prudence feeling a bit uneasy.
Josh, I'm serious. This is the one thing that matters to me. Do not smash the cake in my face. I won't pay $400 for a day's makeup just to wash it off and go the rest of the reception looking like a melting clown.
Josh quickly stood up from his chair, shoving it into the table.
Whatever,
he said, stomping over to the couch to giggle at TikTok videos. Prudence felt a little uneasy after the conversation, But that's how a lot of discussions with Josh ended. He was always quick to get angry, leading Prudence to eventually give in. But not this time. With the cost of the makeup and her extreme claustrophobia, there was going to be no cake covering her face. Roughly a year later, Prudence and Josh had the December winter wonderland wedding of their dreams. Snow fell, Josh looked dapper in his pinstripe suit, and Prudence's curled hair made her feel like Elsa from Frozen. It was an absolutely beautiful and enchanting wedding. The ceremony went perfectly. Prudence kept her crying to a minimum, and just like she expected, the Who Let the Dogs Out song choice was only liked by the table of Josh's old frat buddies.
Dude, you're a legend!
But just like any situation we dread, the cutting of the cake quickly approached. Okay, let's boogie down and cheer on our newest couple as they come down and share their first cake as husband and wife, the DJ announced, as dance music blared over the PA system. Josh immediately took Prudence by the hand as he directed her towards the $400 decorative wedding cake. Please, remember what I said, Prudence told Josh, reminding him of her one stipulation. Whatever, babe, Josh said, using his other hand to high-five his bros cheering for the cake.
We're obsessed with you!
Prudence and Josh, the DJ announced to the room. This is the first of many cakes you will share as a married couple. From children's birthday cakes, to drunk nights of eating cake for dinner, to even butt stuff, because the teens call that cake now, if you didn't know. But before you get all of those experiences, please, feed each other cake in front of all your family and friends. With worry in her heart, Prudence wrapped her hand around Josh's as the two slowly cut their first piece of cake as husband and wife. Josh used the gold-plated cake spatula thing and laid the fluffy white cake piece gently down onto their decorative saucer. Prudence picked up her piece for Josh as Josh picked up the piece for her. The crowd stood in anticipation, waiting to cheer for the consumption of the high-caloried baked good. With her index finger and thumb, Prudence gently inserted the treat into Josh's mouth, while Josh gave Prudence a genuine and heartfelt smile, gently feeding her the piece of cake. She chewed away, happy to know she made it past the hardest part. Deep down, she feared Josh would ignore her wishes, but everything was going to be okay. Her lips tingled from the icing as her eyes slowly panned across the crowd. Her mom and dad were crying. Her coworker Joyce was cheering. And Josh's frat friends were creepily hitting on her bridal party.
Nice cleavage, bro.
Everything was just as she expected it to be. She looked back at her husband and began to lower her shoulders in relaxation. But just as her body language reflected her new shift in mood, Josh's also changed. The sweet, passionate look in his eyes quickly shifted into an ornery smirk. I love you, Josh said, as his free hand grabbed the back of Prudence's head, forcefully smashing her face directly into the large decorative cake. Shrapnel of icing and cake chunks flew, as the $400 cake had been reduced to a crater in the shape of Prudence's face of betrayal. The family and friends on the bride's side were silenced, leaving only the frat bros' chants to be heard. Don't worry, everyone, Josh announced to the room. I got cupcakes! Immediately from the back room, the catering staff brought out trays and trays of cupcakes, as Josh did his best impression of Oprah, giving out free cupcakes.
You get a cupcake, and you get a cupcake.
The crowd's attention was quickly pulled away from the action of the cake smash, and now onto the free cupcakes. Prudence stepped back from the cake, wiping the icing out of her hair and off her face. She was in shock. All of Josh's specific requirements were respected and granted, while Prudence's one was ignored and used against her. She watched as Josh joined the crowd, getting hugs from his mother and cheers from his friends.
You're a fun boy, honey.
Not only was her trust broken, but this act of deception was used to gain Josh more attention. She was a prop for his happiness, and it was all premeditated. Was this the future she signed up for? The rest of the night dragged on, with Prudence playing a wooden version of herself. She lost all romantic feelings for Josh as she screamed for help over the cha-cha slide.
Get me out of here!
That night, the newly married couple laid down in their marital bed, with Josh waking up the next morning alone. In January of 2022, the Slate.com advice column, Dear Prudence, received an anonymous letter entitled, Help, I'm divorcing my husband over an insane stunt he pulled at our wedding. The letter told the heartbreaking story of a woman accepting a proposal with one hard and fast rule for the wedding, that she did not have cake rubbed in her face during the reception. The rest of the letter goes as follows. Being a responsible man who knows me well, he didn't. Instead, he grabbed me by the back of my head and shoved my head down into it. It was planned since the cake was destroyed and he had a bunch of cupcakes as backup. I left. Next day I told him we were done, and I am standing by that. The thing is that over the holidays, everyone has gotten together to tell me I should give him a second chance, that I am overreacting because of my issues, that I love him, he loves me, and that means not giving up on the first hurdle. I don't want to, but everyone is so united and confident in their assurance I am making a terrible mistake that I wonder if they are right. The issues that she is referring to is her claustrophobia, caused by a car wreck she had years back. The letter left it with her intentions to either be divorced or annulled by the end of January. Unfortunately, as the writer of this article remained anonymous, there's no telling what she decided to do. The Prudence that replied to this letter replied with a very pro-divorce stance, stating, "Everyone's sure you're making a mistake, but they're not the ones who have to wake up every day with a man whose behavior massively turns them off. You are. So you only have to listen to yourself. I think what he did was a red flag about not respecting you and your wishes, to say nothing of the physical aggression. But even if it wasn't, the fact that you really like it is enough. Make a mental note about which of your loved ones don't seem to value your happiness and continue with your divorce." Let's chalk this up as another one of my crimes against humanity stories that doesn't actually end with an arrest. And yes, I do realize that this is an anonymous article and could totally have been a fake, but this kind of thing is super common in the wedding world. After bringing this story up to Emily, she took me down a TikTok journey of different videos of these types of men totally disrespecting their brides on their wedding day. So even if this particular story isn't real, these occurrences happen a lot. And the story went viral, so you're going to have to get all the way off my back with this one. The cake smash is a very strange and semi-predatory tradition. If you're marrying a person who is more worried about their image and putting on a good show for others, you may just find yourself a pawn in their sick and twisted game of attention-seeking. So focus on the real stuff. Don't worry about great rehearsed photos, everyone's traditions, and the big day. These red flags have ways of presenting themselves. We all dream of having the perfect day, where we are the celebrated center of attention. But no destination wedding or super expensive cover band is going to fix the rest of your life if it is spent with the wrong person. Because the wedding ring is a symbol of unity, a circle unbroken, without beginning or end. It is a seal of the vows two partners have made to one another. So don't ruin them by being a dumb dick less than 1 hour after making the promise.
Wow, interesting take. Going with a Dear Prudence letter. How did that even come about?
Well, the story had gone viral and it's been shared all over. And I mean, there were articles about the article. That's how big the article was.
And it just happened, the article?
The article came out in January.
Oh, okay.
I saw articles as new as June that were basically just ripping off the entire thing. It was like Slate's competitors being like, Slate had a great article about a woman who did this. Because, I mean, it's a good story. You do have a lot of opinions on the side. Some people probably hate that story and were like, no, she shouldn't have divorced him. Obviously, there's going to be people that think that.
Yeah.
It's a very divisive story.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just really big. And I was like, I'm going to look into this. There's got to be a crime or maybe something related to it. And then I found out that it was a Dear Prudence thing. And I thought, there's nothing in the rule book that says I can't.
You know what? There are no rules on this show ever. So there's that. But I thought that was a very interesting way to even begin, was getting it from a letter like that. I kept waiting because I was like, is this a crime against humanity? Which I've done. I mean, I poured water on a girl and I wrote a whole story about it.
Yeah, didn't you just have a crime against humanity like a week or two ago? The ice cream man. That was my last crime against humanity.
Oh, yes. And honestly, I don't know if different states have different things, but if the bride really wanted to, I wonder if she could have said assault.
And she would have had so much proof.
I know.
Because I'm sure there were videos.
I know that sounds a little extreme, but I'm just trying to tie it to a crime. But first, let me just start by saying I would be beyond mortified if my partner did that to me on my wedding day. Holy hell. Also, kind of like you said, it's kind of an unfair thing. I know everyone is different. marry whoever you want, and there's different things. But I married Jordan, who has longer arms than me. So when we both tried to feed each other, his arm was longer. So he had a much easier route to and we weren't mean to each other. He just poked my nose and I poked his. That's all we did.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah. No, there was no shoving. He knew he had an advantage too. So he could have just been bam, he really could have if he was a huge POS, but he didn't. I would have killed him. Have you and Emily talked about this? Are you even going to have a wedding cake?
Oh, fuck yeah, we're going to have cake.
Okay.
Do you not know me?
Well, she makes cookies. I know you're having a s'mores bar. I just didn't know.
Yeah, we're going to have a cake. I think one of her sisters is making it.
Oh, then it's going to be fire.
But Emily and I just aren't the people who like to be at the front of attention that much.
Yeah.
And that's something that Emily and I have talked about too, is I think some people put a lot of pressure on the big day because they're not used to having that much attention and it's just their time to shine. And if you grew up as a child who just loves attention, then you look forward to that day because you know that's your prestige point. I put on plenty of musicals, I put on plenty of plays, all the different things you've done in your life, but the wedding.
Oh, yeah.
I get a fancy costume and everybody wants to tell me how nice I am. I get gifts for being me. It's great for you people.
Yeah.
Emily and I, we both are creative people who work on projects, and they say that the best serotonin boost a person can have is creating something. And so I think some people really like having children because that's them creating things.
Oh, interesting.
But I get that rush all the time.
Yeah.
From putting these stories together, putting a little bit of myself in everything I do. And that gives me such a good, fulfilling feeling. So to me, the wedding doesn't mean anything to me like that. And like I said in the story, it seems like it's more for the other people than for yourself. And every person I talk to before doing that, they're just do it more for yourself. Everybody wants to say that.
But who actually does it?
Yeah, it's easy to say that from the third person. Okay, if you would have been getting engaged and you talked to my mom, she would say, do it for yourself. Our big day, we don't remember it. But when it's her son and her future daughter-in-law planning a wedding, she wants all those traditions right back.
Right.
Because she wants to enjoy the mama side of it.
Yeah.
And if we don't do the traditional side of things and make it about the other people, which is what she is in this situation, then it's almost like we're robbing her of a future memory that she was hoping to one day have.
Because even with Jordan and I's wedding, we had a lot of untraditional things about it, obviously, when it came to genders on both sides and all, just a bunch of stuff. But there were definitely things we had to have in there because if we didn't, it would offend, my grandparents or whatever. Even us who are very stubborn and we're going to do what we want. Even we did do some of the things because we're well, we have all this family coming.
Yeah. And some people will die on that hill if you don't do that one thing.
Yeah.
It's almost like it didn't even matter.
People were offended that I didn't have a registry. I get it now, looking back, it probably makes it easier for people to get you a gift. And also, it's nice to have a registry, I'm sure. Just really little weird things that people were so offended by. And I'm oh my God.
I didn't even know you cared that much.
I know.
And I'm not saying that it's been hard to deal with my mom with it or anything. Don't take it that way.
Yeah.
But there are just certain times where she's oh, were you going to do this? And Emily and I both look at each other no, it didn't even cross my mind. I don't care at all about that.
Yeah.
Some people talk about having the man already there and then having the dad hand her off.
Yes.
Almost this was mine. Now it's yours. Don't break this butterfly.
Yeah.
And we didn't really want to do that.
Okay,
but
cool.
I think we're going
Are you?
to because
Yeah.
I think she feels we're already not doing so much other stuff. I want to give my dad at least that.
I hear that.
I would have been fine having everybody seated, and then if Emily wanted to come down and have her little jaunt, cool. But, no pressure. I wasn't going to have family walk down. I was just going to have everybody be up there.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think we'll probably still give family members their introduction just because if that's what they want and they feel like it's right and good, then sure.
Yeah.
But the traditional thing is weird, and
it really is when you think about it.
And I didn't even get that far into it, really. There's so many weird traditions, and all of them come from really weird places.
Yeah.
But people have found ways to make money off of it, and then other people just think that there's no other way of having a thing. And it's the world can have so many different shades of gray. Just have fun with the palette, just do your thing.
I'm actually really excited for your guys' wedding because I just envision it as a very chill environment that's not... You guys are just both very authentic and very cozy and chill people. You know how some weddings, you're like, oh my God, don't mess this up. Or, you know, like, you better pose right. Or people are bridezillas and all these things and groomzillas and whatever the hell. But you guys aren't going to be any of that. And your wedding's going to be like very chill.
Yeah, I've actually been having this thought lately because my joke about having a footloose wedding, that's actually a joke that Emily and I tell people. We say, oh, we're having a footloose wedding. We don't have dancing. And Emily and I have gotten so comfortable with that joke that she just had a little bridal shower at her work. And they're like, oh, tell us about your wedding. And she goes, oh, we're having a footloose wedding. And one of her coworkers was like, oh, that's a good movie. And she had to be like, oh, not a footloose themed wedding, sorry. And then when she finally told them what the actual truth was we just don't want to have dancing at it. Then the girl was like, oh, that's even weirder, thanks.
Yeah,
like,
that's even less fun, but okay, bye.
But one of my insecurities is, what if this is the world's most boring wedding?
Oh,
like we
no.
get married and then everybody's like, well, we're still here for another 5 hours. What are we going to do? And we're just like, eat s'mores and I don't know, go fuck off. I don't know. Like, here we are, you know?
It's going to be so good. It's going to be so great. It's not going to be boring. It's going to be lovely. It'll be fine. And if people can't entertain themselves, then like, go home.
Yeah, and I'm encouraging people bring pajamas or bring comfortable clothes after the thing because I hate being dressed nice. So
yeah,
let's just be relaxing afterwards.
Oh my God, can you get the bride and groom PJ set or what?
I told Emily, I said, I want to get a satin PJ
Please.
tuxedo. Would be so funny.
Oh my God, please do it.
I'll see if they even exist.
I guarantee they do. Wow, Trevin. Well, that was a lovely story. I cracked up many times throughout.
Thank you.
So I also have a story to tell today, and it is from the news.
Hell yeah.
Really? I'm trying to think how I even came upon this one. I honestly cannot remember, but I really don't have an intro, so I'm going to just jump right in.
All right. Well, I'm ready to enjoy.
Here we go. Today's story delves deep into a chilling pastime for many individuals. One that has become a dying form of communication and a direct cause of becoming ghosted. It's an act so frightening, it causes both millennials and Gen Zers alike to run away in fear. For what starts off as a soft ringing in the ears, crescendos louder, leading anyone who hears it to panic. Today, we're going to discuss the taboo subject of phone calls. So turn your phone on mute and lock your home screens, because you never know who may try calling you in the middle of this petty tale. Douglas Walliver was a 40-year-old man living in Sydney, Ohio during a cold winter in 2013. Being that wintertime was naturally a more isolating time for him, Douglas began to increase his time spent on his favorite hobbies, including searching for copper, stealing copper, and scrapping the stolen copper for cash. But even more horrifying than his copper-based hobbies, Douglas had another way he filled his days, by making many, many phone calls. No location was safe from these calls, as he accepted calls in the shower,
This is Doug.
placed calls in movie theaters, and refused to drop calls as he dropped a deuce each evening.
No, I'm not busy at all.
No person was safe from the calls either. Douglas's friends and family feared the repetitive ringing they endured, as they struggled to decide whether or not to answer or ignore. First dates never led to another because of Douglas's incessant desire to call immediately afterwards to check in.
It was great seeing you 10 minutes ago.
The only relationship that truly thrived due to his love for talking on the phone were the regular telemarketers who knew him by name. It was beginning to feel like his phone calls were negatively impacting his life, but he loved calling people. Plus, his fingers were simply too large and clumsy to text. It was late one February afternoon as Douglas woke up and immediately called his mother. He then got dressed for the day, calling his grandma, aunt, and best friend in between items of clothing, only to be rejected by them all. Douglas sighed as he realized today would probably be a slower conversation day, and that he'd probably end up resorting to calling his needy friend, Pee-wee. Douglas scoured his town for possible sources of copper piping as he finished up his half-assed conversation with Pee-wee.
I'm so glad you called.
With a fresh pile of snow covering everything in his sight, Douglas walked towards the blocks of the established homes in the neighborhood. He knew that if he spotted an old enough and unoccupied home to break into, there was sure to be copper inside. Douglas discovered the perfect home to dissect as he whispered his goodbyes into his cell to his newest telemarketing friend.
Please call again anytime.
He then waited and watched the owners of the home leave for work. Douglas stepped delicately through the snow and forced a side window open with a crowbar. With no alarm sounding and no other occupants inside the home, he started looking for his valuable copper pipes. Sure enough, the house was a copper mine. Douglas shoved his phone into his back pocket and got to work removing the prized pipes. However, what he didn't know was that it wasn't only his hands placing phone calls that day. Douglas's butt had also joined in on the action. Unbeknownst to the rest of Douglas, his phone rang quietly inside his back pocket, placing an outgoing call to 911. 911, what is your emergency? The operator asked professionally into the phone, but she only heard sounds of rustling and small banging in the background. Not knowing if this was an accidental call or if a person was really in danger, the operator traced the call and dispatched local deputies to the address. Douglas remained hard at work, digging for copper, when he heard car doors slam outside. The doors were followed by the sounds of muted voices echoing out of walkie-talkies. He knew these familiar sounds all too well as he quickly searched the home for a place to hide from the police. Deputies Cool Cat and Sassy Susan were two of the top local officers in the area and were not only assigned badass nicknames, but also to this bizarre call. They approached the home in which the 911 call was traced to, cautiously. Cool Cat stuck out his arm calmly in front of Sassy Susan, motioning towards the snow. Footprints leading towards the window, Cool Cat whispered. The deputies nodded at one another, walking side by side towards the forced entry. This was more than enough reason to investigate further as they entered the home. Once inside, Sassy Susan noticed torn and mangled bits of copper pipe scattered across the floor. That's so metal, Susan said sassily to her partner. But before Cool Cat could respond, the officers heard something beeping. Armed and ready, both deputies tiptoed towards the mysterious beeping. Eventually, the annoying sounds led them just outside a bathroom door. On the other side of that door was a frantic Douglas. He had just realized that he had been on the phone with a 911 operator the entire time he was in the house.
Oh, are you fucking kidding me?
Douglas was now desperately trying to silence the low battery warning, beeping repeatedly from his phone, when he heard the officers. Come out with your hands up and turn that damn phone off! On Tuesday, February 8th of 2013, a silent 911 call came into a dispatch office in Sydney, Ohio. The call was then traced to a nearby home, and deputies were sent out to investigate. At the scene, the deputies noticed fresh footprints in the snow, leading towards a forced open window. With the 911 call still connected, it was determined that the call was coming from inside the house. After the deputies entered the home, they followed the continuous beeping sounds coming from a bathroom. They then ordered anyone inside to come out, and a 40-year-old Douglas Walliver appeared. Douglas told police he was just scrapping, as they discovered several feet of copper pipe and tubing in the house. According to the report, pliers, vice grips, a screwdriver, gloves, a ski mask, and a flashlight were also removed. Douglas also confirmed that he had put his cell phone in his back pocket upon entry to the home and had apparently butt dialed 911 around 6 p.m. Because of this long phone call, his phone was beeping incessantly with a low battery warning, leading officers to his hiding spot in the bathroom. Sheriff John Linhart said in a news release that, "The last time my deputies had to work this hard to solve a burglary is when the suspect left his wallet behind." Douglas was later charged with breaking and entering. There are many reasons why telephone calls are becoming fewer and further between. Maybe it's because we've all become more antisocial due to technological advances. Or maybe it's just because communication can be scary as fuck. Regardless, if you're placing a call with your hands or your butt, beware. Because you never know who may be listening on the other end.
I don't know how many times I've received calls and there was a butt on the other side.
I was going to ask if you've ever made a really weird butt dial before.
I've received a couple. I don't think I've ever had that mistake. What year did you say this took place in? Like, are we talking touchscreen phone or are we talking like a button phone?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Because if you're touchscreening with your butt, I'm curious, you know?
2013.
Well,
I mean, shoot, that wasn't that long ago, really.
10 years ago.
I think that's when I graduated college.
I think I got my first touchscreen phone, smartphone, at the age of like 21. So that would have been 2011. And I was behind the times, I think.
Oh, okay. You can definitely butt dial at that time of year, I would say.
That's weird.
I don't even know how I found this one, but it was just one of those weird, quirky ones that you're like, no, this can't be real. Like, nobody butt dial 911 in the middle of a crime, and then their low battery led to them finding what room he was
Sounds
in.
like something from a movie.
Yeah, but literally, there were so many articles, such good information. I mean, a lot of them, I obviously didn't find out how much time he served or what his punishment was at all.
Yeah, you said breaking and entering. I was expecting there would also be something for the mangling of the house and the pirating of the scrap.
So did I. I don't know what I thought. Yeah, it's breaking and entering, but like burglary, but there's also damages done. I don't know. But all of the articles that I found only said breaking and entering.
Yeah, that's so weird.
I wonder who has to pay for that, or like, I don't know. But have you heard about this whole copper pipe thing?
Oh, yeah. Being here in Missouri, I've heard a lot of people scrapping stuff like that.
I had heard of it barely. I didn't really know why, or I assumed it's just because copper is more valuable, which it apparently does get a really good resale price because they can turn it into a bunch of stuff. But apparently around the recession time, when I was still in high school and stuff, people stealing copper really, really skyrocketed up.
I could see that.
Yeah. And I kind of made up the whole how we found the house. I don't know how or where you would even go to look to assume that a house had copper pipes in it. I don't know. That was just my assumption of how he found it.
Yeah, maybe like a basement or a garage that you can see some of the pipes showing, I guess.
Yeah, maybe. I really don't know. I clearly everything made up about Douglas and his hobbies. I don't know.
Right.
I just thought it'd be funny that it's something that he really liked to do, and then he did it while committing a crime.
Wow. So your story actually reminded me of a story that happened at work recently.
Oh, no.
I actually heard some of the people that took over by where my old seat was, they can hear the salesman now.
Oh, God.
And that really weird dude I told you about, he has always had this issue where he leaves the ringer on his phone all the way up. And I don't know, he has like a damn sub connected to it or something. It's so loud. But he has this ringtone that sounds like an off-brand version of the Jurassic Park theme. So it's just like... and it's just really blaring loud. So this dude, he loves to let his phone ring. I don't know why. And his phone was ringing, blaring off the hook. He was at the next cubicle over just talking to a guy. Did not care. Did not go and at least hit the red button or silence it or something. He just continued talking.
What a weirdo. Does he just like feeling wanted? Is that what it is? He's like, someone's still calling me right now, even as I continue to speak.
I have no idea.
What is the thought process? Turn it off.
So everybody in my department is just like, what the hell is this guy's problem? Everybody on earth can hear this. And after a little bit, the dude who crop dusted me, who acts like he's better than everybody else, goes up to him and goes, "Are you going to get that?" And he goes, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm talking." And he said, "Do you not realize how loud this is? Everybody can hear this."
Yeah.
And the guy, which I told you is a weirdo, he goes, oh yeah, it's just this phone, it can do this crazy thing. And he hangs up the call and then starts opening it up and he's like, look what I can do with my phone. Instead of taking, the criticism of, hey, you're annoying everybody, he's like, yeah, I have a really cool phone though. And he's like, it's got a flashlight and it does this.
It's like, so does everyone else's, you freak.
Well, the crop duster looked at him and said, my phone can do that too. And he's like, well, yeah, but it's just, and my friend at work said that the crop duster looked him straight in the eyes and just said, are you fucking stupid? And then he turned around and went back to his office. And my friend who took my spot said, that is the weirdest encounter I think I've ever seen. And I was like, yeah, I used to see that stuff all the time. But he's kind of the guy who trains him. So to have your trainer and the guy you've been buddy with the whole time just look at you and go, are you fucking stupid? And just walk away from you.
To have someone with the nickname The Crop Duster tell you you're fucking stupid is like maybe the lowest of the low. But wait, how did my story remind you of that?
Well, loud phones.
Duh. I thought you were going to say... Because my guy was like, what? I'm just scrapping metal in here, nothing to see. Because that was a weird thing to do, too.
No, it was just phone calls.
I'm not breaking in to do anything else. I'm just scrapping metal. That's still not cool.
Yeah, you'd have to be really good with your words to say, like, oh, I actually just live here. I'm just scrapping my own copper piping. But it must have felt normal for him to say it.
Well, then yeah, you might be triggered when adding all the cell phone rings based from that guy from your office, and I'm really sorry.
None of them will sound like the Jurassic Park theme, so
Please,
I think we'll be okay.
No. So what a dum-dum this guy was. I do wish I knew what his punishment was, but, that's how it goes sometimes over here.
That seems like one of those stories where the judge would laugh when sentencing him, like, you butt down the police.
I know, that would be a good one. I had to put the quote from the sheriff just because he was like, what in the hell? This was so stupid. Oh, shit. Connections, Trevin.
I found two.
What?
First one, millennials. I said this was millennial love in 2020. You had said something about millennials and Gen Zers.
Running away in fear from a phone call.
And then number 2, snow and the winter wonderland.
Oh my God. Duh.
Because mine took place in December and yeah.
Yep. I specifically wanted to say that mine was in the winter too, just because there was snow and that's how they found what window he went in. Mm-hmm. That's a really good point.
Either of those two, I'm sure. I'll try to put them together both for the title, but...
God, I don't even know how that could even be a combination, but... Here we are.
Yeah, that's our show.
That's our show. And you know what? I hope that everyone is having the best week. It is officially spooky season. So just remember, no matter the crime, big or small, in the end, we're all doomed.
Doomed to have pumpkin everything.
Pumpkin everything. Bye.
See ya.
Thanks for turning your phone calls on mute and for listening to our show. Remember, tell a friend about us.
And would you rather have a different job every year or live in a different house every year? Tell us on social media, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, or Threads. Live, Laugh, Larceny.
And if you have ever butt dialed the police, please send us your petty crime story, livelaughlarceny@gmail.com.
And if you totally disagree with me on my stance on wedding traditions, don't tell me in reviews, tell me only good things. 5 stars on Apple, Spotify, or Good Pods. But that's a fun thing that us men get to do. Everyone will laugh and think of me as a fun boy.